Thank you, Father, for your mercy and your love. Thank you for the opportunity to be here this morning, Lord. Now that we're here, Lord, speak to us so that the words we may hear, we may apply. May they be for our salvation, Lord. This I ask you, thanks in your name. Amen. It's always a privilege to stand before you, like I like to say, stand before God's people. And Pastor called me this week and said he needed me to preach. And I thought I was off the hook. But I was not. So I started thinking, what can I talk about? What can I preach about? I started thinking, well, what are the things that I'm seeing? What are the things that the Bible speaks about that are going to transpire and occur during our time? So I titled this sermon, I'm going to show you one slide, the first slide. It's titled Transaction Declined. How many of you have gone to the store and had your transaction declined? After you spend from 20 minutes to 2 hours rummaging around the store looking for deals and finding all the wonderful stuff, you get to the end, you present your credit card or your check, and what does the teller tell you? Your transaction has been declined. Oh, darn it. It's so embarrassing, right? You're standing there. There's people next to you, to your left, to your right. You're like, man, how do I fix this? You start looking for cash right away. Do I have cash? Do I have cash? So one time, I'm at a department store buying suits. Spend about 2 hours, and I find these nice suits, decent price. And when I go to pay, something happened. My transaction got declined. And I don't know what we had to do. I ended up buying them because I spent 2 hours here. I'm going to bring them home with me, but it's not pleasant. And recently, Tamara went to Orlando, and there's a credit card we always use, and they always decline it. And there's credit card companies that if you use the credit card outside your area, they will decline it. And some people have to tell their credit card company, I'm going to travel, especially if you're going outside your country, travel abroad. You don't tell them, and you go to use your card at some French shop, guess what's going to happen? You better start looking for euros because your credit card just got declined. So what does that have to do with today's message, right? Well, God in his infinite mercy has always told his people the things that are going to happen before they happen. And what he tells his people is extremely important. And the information he tells us is not just for our benefit, but it's also for the benefit of the world. And these pieces of information are found in the Bible, and they're called what? Prophecies. Very fancy word for God telling what the future is going to hold. Now, knowing the future is extremely important, and this world puts a premium on you being able to foretell or forecast the future. Now, when we think about forecasting, what comes to mind? The weather. And I know Louis, who works for UPS, and he's outside running in outside the truck, he looks at the weather for every week because he's going to be directly impacted by the weather. So if the weatherman says it's going to be 80 degrees and ends up being 120, Louis is not going to be happy because he prepared for 80. He believed the weatherman. And when you look at a news station, they use these fancy words, AccuWeather, Doppler radar, And all this stuff becomes really important when there's a hurricane coming because you need to know which way to run, right? And what you see on the screen, you see what's called a spaghetti model. Have you seen a spaghetti model? A bunch of lines, different colors, and they all go like this. Because one agency says, I believe it's going this way. And the other one, I believe it's going this way. So they're all guessing. They're all trying to predict. But as we know, you can't really 100% accurately predict the weather. Now, where else is prediction used? Think about it. Every 4 years, there's an election. You got these people coming on TV saying, so-and-so is leading by 5 points because such and such poll says. So what they do is they ask 100 people or 1,000 people, and they take that information and say, based on what they said, this is what's going to happen. So prediction. So if you're able to predict, you can make a lot of money. Now, speaking about money, if you can predict the stock market, right? If you can buy a stock that's going to go up before it goes up, or buy a stock that's going to go down before it goes down, you can become rich. And people will pay you for that information. Financial advisors charge a lot of money to tell you what to do with your money to make it grow and to protect it. Now, there's a story in the Bible, in Acts chapter 16. There was a little slave girl that had the spirit of divination. This little girl could tell what the future would hold. So divination is to find out what the future is going to hold or find out knowledge supernaturally. So Paul is preaching, and this girl kept following him and saying, these men are the servants of the Most High God, who proclaim to us the way of salvation. And she did this for a lot of days. Finally, he gets really tired and really annoyed. He turns around, he tells the demon to come out. And from that moment on, she lost the power of divination. And her owners got so upset because they lost their ability to make money. So even back then, 2,000 years ago, being able to foretell the future was lucrative. Now you may think, I'm going to go to some fortune teller. I'm going to go to some palm reader to tell me my future. Well, you can go and you might find some charlatan that will tell you what everybody's going through. You know, you have love issues or financial problems. But you might find that one person that is the servant of the devil and will tell you things that you've never told anyone. And then you're in trouble. So don't do that. Don't go to palm readers. Now, Second Thessalonians 2:9 reads, the coming of the lawless one is according to the working of Satan, which all power, signs, and lying wonders. So the devil will lie. The devil will think he can tell you the future, but he cannot. Now, God tells you what the future is going to hold for two reasons. And that's found in Isaiah 46:10 and John 14:29. He wants you to know the future, one, so you can be prepared, and two, so you may believe, declaring the end from the beginning, and from the ancient times, things that are not yet done, saying, my counsel shall stand, and I will do my pleasure. The only one that can tell the future is God. John 14:29, and now I have told you before it comes, that when it does come to pass, you may what? So God is not asking you to believe in fairy tales. He's asking you to believe in concrete evidence. Now, these are some of the events that God has predicted. The Great Flood. 120 years before it rained, God said there will be a flood. Now, if you travel back in time, before the flood, and you stood around and you watched Noah preach that it would rain, you would hear people mocking him because what did not happen back then? What is rain? Water falling from heaven. That did not happen. The earth was watered through the dew in the morning. So if you told people it's going to rain, they look at you, you're crazy. This is never going to happen. Not only did it happen, but what happens now? That hasn't happened in Houston in the past 6 to 8 weeks. It has not rained, right? The Bible has also predicted the rise and the fall of Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, and Rome. Who can predict kingdoms that will rise and fall? It also predicted that the 10 tribes that formed the Roman Empire, 3 would be taken away, and the other 7 would never unite. Ever since the fall of Imperial Rome, those 7 tribes have never united. And there were 2 people that tried to unite them. Who were those 2? One was Napoleon, and he got stuck where? Trying to conquer England, right? And the second one was Hitler. And who did he get stuck trying to conquer? England. So the prophecy that was given in the time of Daniel still holds to this day. We also have writings in the spirit of prophecy, writings by Ellen White, that shed light on these events. Now I want you to read with me Revelation 13, 15 through 17, because Revelation speaks of a world power that will rise and force everyone, great, small, rich, and poor, to worship a certain way or else. Let's read. Revelation 13, verse 15 through 17. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause. Now, when you read speak and cause, means legislate. That as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And he caused all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond. That means everybody. That means whatever influence you may have, it does not matter. However much money you have, it does not matter. If you're broke living in a hut, it does not matter. Okay? Everyone. To receive a mark in their hand, in their right hand, or in their foreheads, that no man might buy or sell, save he that hath the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. So it is important that as you read, to receive a mark in the right hand or in the forehead. It doesn't mean on. So you're not going to be walking around with a symbol on your forehead. In the forehead means that you have thought about it, you have made a conscious decision to follow this. And in your right hand means that even though you may not believe it, by your actions, you will follow it. So when this power says you will worship, so people will say, I believe it, and they will worship. Other people say, well, you know, I don't believe it, but since they're threatening to kill me, I'm going to do it. Now, how will this power control what you buy and sell? You may be asking. Well, we have a very ominous picture of what the future holds here. Now, do we believe these scenes will come true? Or is it something way down in the distance, some murky prophecy that may not occur? Well, we have no reason to doubt it because I just mentioned some prophecies that came true, just like the Bible said. Now, you may say, well, this country, it's not going to happen in this country because this country has laws that protect how I worship, protect my freedom of worship, how I want to worship, and my conscience in how I worship. So you're right. It's called the First Amendment. The First Amendment of the Constitution reads, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibit the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. So the United States Constitution reads it, and the United States military will enforce it. You have the freedom to worship how you want. Now, Revelation just read that these freedoms will be removed. You're thinking, how is that going to happen? There are many things that have to come together for this to happen, but it's going to happen. So how will they prevent you from buying or selling? So nowadays, if you want to go buy something, you go to the store, you take out your credit card, you swipe it. The information goes to the credit card company. They approve the transaction. You take whatever home. Or you can take out cash, buy it, and no one knows what you bought. There's no record of it. You can buy something from your neighbor. You can buy something from family member. Nobody knows except you and the person that bought it. There's no electronic transaction. So all there needs to be is a digital form of money that is controlled by a central agency that can be used for all transactions by everyone, that can be traced at all times. Do we have something like that today? Paper money needs to go away. This way, the government can control what you buy and when you buy it. Before you think I'm going crazy off the deep end, God says this will happen. Let me show you the first slide. What is a central bank digital currency? Have you heard this before? So a central bank digital currency is basically physical, instead of physical money, it's electronic money. So no more paper money. Next slide. Would society benefit from this? Well, they have to tell you, they have to sell it to you, right? You don't need money anymore. It can get lost, your dog can eat it, but if you have it here, it's much better. So the digital euro, let's talk about the euro, will be a fast, easy, and secure way for people to make digital payments. The ECB says it will give people more choice about how to pay and also increase financial inclusion. Do you guys want something like this? Something where you can use digital way of paying easier? Let's go. Let's say that about 1.7 billion adults globally don't have access to a bank account. And this would help people have access to a bank account. It also says the resilience of the financial system could also be boosted. If a natural disaster happens or the failure of a payment company makes cash unavailable, you can use this as a backup. And next comes the real reason why they're implementing it. They always put it last, right? Reducing financial crime is another motivator. Cash is essentially, how does it read? Untraceable, and this helps to facilitate crime. Central bank digital currencies, on the other hand, can improve the transparency of money flows, meaning we can see everything you do with your money. Says the Atlantic Council. Next slide. There are more than 100 countries, including 19 G20 nations. What are G20 nations? G20 nations are top nations in the country, top financial nations. So it's coming. Next one. Next slide. So basically this slide reads that we have started. Part of President Joe Biden's executive order regarding digital assets on Wednesday includes placing urgency on the research and development of a potential United States CBDC, should the issuance be deemed in the national interest, according to an accompanying fact sheet released by the White House. This was written in March 11, 2022. China, the world's second largest economy by gross domestic product, soft launched its digital renminbi in January, and the CBDC already boasts more than 100 million users. So China is already using it. Next slide. What is the purpose of the Federal Reserve System? What is the Federal Reserve System? Who knows what that is? The Fed. It is a private bank, Gabriel said, that manages the money of which country? The Federal Reserve System, often referred to as the Federal Reserve or simply the Fed, is the central bank of the United States. It was created by Congress to provide the nation with a safe, more flexible, and more stable monetary and financial system. So they control the money. Chase doesn't control the money. Bank of America doesn't control the money. Who controls the money? federal system. Next slide. So, FedNow service went live on July 20th, 2023. When was that? Last month. So last month, the Federal Reserve went live. It's already here. Let that sink in for a little bit. It's already here. So it's here. The question is, will a government ever prevent a group of individuals from accessing money if they're deemed a threat? Have you ever seen this before? Have you seen a government say this group of individuals cannot access money because they're a threat to the country? All right, I'm going to play you a little video right now.
As of today, all crowdfunding platforms and the payment service providers they use must register with FINTRAC, and they must report large and suspicious transactions to FINTRAC. This will help mitigate the risk that these platforms receive illicit funds, increase the quality and quantity of intelligence received by FINTRAC, and make more information available to support investigations by law enforcement into these illegal blockades. We are making these changes because we know that these platforms are being used to support illegal blockades and illegal activity, which is damaging the Canadian economy. The government will also bring forward legislation to provide these authorities to FINTRAC on a permanent basis. Second, the government is issuing an order with immediate effect under the Emergencies Act, authorizing Canadian financial institutions to temporarily cease providing financial services where the institution suspects that an account is being used to further the illegal blockades and occupations. This order covers both personal and corporate accounts. Third, we are directing Canadian financial institutions to review their relationships with anyone involved in the illegal blockades and report to the RCMP or CSIS. As of today, a bank or other financial service provider will be able to immediately freeze or suspend an account without a court order. In doing so, they will be protected against civil liability for actions taken in good faith. Federal government institutions will have a new broad authority to share relevant information with banks and other financial service providers to ensure that we can all work together to put a stop to the funding of these illegal blockades. This is about following the money. This is about stopping the financing of these illegal blockades. We are today serving notice. If your truck is being used in these illegal blockades, your corporate accounts will be frozen. The insurance on your vehicle will be suspended. Send your semi-trailers home. The Canadian economy needs them to be doing legitimate work, not to be illegally making us all poorer.
How many times did she use the word illegally? So some of you may not know about this, but in early 2022, there were a lot of truckers in Canada that were protesting the COVID mandate. They did not want to get the vaccine. So they decided that we're going to be a thorn on the side of the government. So I'm not taking any sides. I'm not taking the side of the government or the truckers. What I did want to show you is how the situation was resolved. For months, Prime Minister Trudeau kept threatening, we're going to arrest you, we're going to throw you in jail, we're going to tow your trucks. They didn't listen. If you listen to some YouTube videos of these truckers being interviewed, say, we're not leaving. until they listen to what we have to say and they reverse it. We're not leaving. So for months, Canada tried to move them, and they did not move. Then comes this lady who was speaking here, said, I'll fix it. All she did was freeze bank accounts. You want to eat? You cannot. You want to buy fuel? You cannot. You want to buy medicine? You cannot. And if someone sends you money, you cannot use it. Not one shot was fired. No violence. And what happened to the convoy? It disbanded. So here is a G20 government making something illegal, calling it illegal, and then using this type of financial restriction in order to get these individuals to behave a certain way. Now, is that the same thing that Revelation is talking about? Could be, right? You worship us the way we say you worship, or you cannot do what? Buy or sell. So they're by force, coercing you, forcing you to behave a certain way. Next slide. I'm going to ask Brother Fred to read this slide right here.
Brother, I don't have a good signal. Can you give it to them? My vision is no good.
I can't see that.
Can you see it?
I cannot.
Can't see it? I'll read it then. The adherents of truth are not called upon to choose between disregarding a plain requirement of God's word or forfeiting their liberty. If we yield the word of God and accept human customs and traditions, we may still be permitted to live among men, to buy and sell, and have our rights respected. So if we just comply, you're able to participate in society, right? But if we maintain our loyalty to God, it must be at the sacrifice of our rights among men. For the enemies of God's law have leagued together to crush out independent judgment in matters of religious faith and to control the conscience of men. They are determined to put an end to the long-continued controversy concerning the Sabbath, to prohibit all further spread of the truth upon this point, and to secure the exaltation of Sunday and in the very face of the injunction of the fourth commandment. Ministry of Healing, 1893, a long time ago. So what's Ellen White writing about here? She's saying the day will come when if you worship on the wrong day, you will not be able to participate with society. Next slide. So that's very ominous, right? Think about it right now. How do you pay for your mortgage? How do you pay for your rent? Buy gasoline, right? Buy food. Pay taxes. Buy medicine. Buy a piece of gum. It's all through money. And if you can't do it, you're stuck. So very hard times are coming. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be very difficult. But we should have hope. Next slide. In the last great conflict of the controversy with Satan, those who are loyal to God will see every earthly support cut off. Every earthly support cut off. You can't go to the doctor, you can't go to the hospital. Because they refuse to break his law in obedience to earthly powers, they will be forbidden to buy or sell. It will finally be decreed that they shall be put to death. They're done with you. You don't want to listen? Okay, we're going to kill you. That's what Revelation reads. So that 401k that you have, useless. Right? The bank account is useless. If you have any precious metals, you can't use it. So use it all now. It will finally be decreed that they shall be put to death. But to the obedient is given the promise. Listen to this. He shall dwell on high. His place of defense shall be the munition of rocks. What does that mean, the munition of rocks? You have to read the great controversy. how during the time of papal Rome, people had to live in the mountains and in caves. And that's the only place they have protection. The same things will happen again. Bread shall be given him, his water shall be secure. Who do you think about when you read bread shall be given him? Elijah. By his promise, the children of God will live. When the earth shall be wasted with famine, they shall be fed. They shall be ashamed in the evil time, and in the days of famine they shall be satisfied. To that this time of distress, the prophet Habakkuk looked forward, and his words expressed the faith of the church. Although the fig tree shall not blossom, neither shall fruit be in the vines, the labor of the olive shall fail, and the field shall yield no meat. The flock shall be cut off from the fold, and there shall be no herd in the stalls. Yet I will rejoice in the Lord. I will joy in the God of my salvation. Interesting, huh? So how many of us are making preparations for this? Who's getting ready? It's coming. Everything is in place. We have enough put together already. The deadly wound has been healed. The Vatican is putting everything into place. When world economies get together, they get marching orders from the Vatican. All we need is the law to come. So we have to start getting ready. We have to get, Ellen White writes about it. And you should read the book, The Great Controversy. She gives a lot of advice on what to do. Get a piece of land, start growing your food. Because when everything is cut off, you're going to have to depend on what you are growing. And when the decree of death comes and we start running, then we will entirely depend on God to feed us and to give us the water. So I don't want us to be scared. I want us to be aware of what's happening. Sometimes we get a little comfortable, right? We sit on that comfortable couch. We get on Netflix. We go to the fridge, take out something to drink. This is the life. It's going to end pretty soon. Bible talks about it. No prophecy that the Bible has spoken about has never not come true. And this will come true. So I encourage you to get ready. I encourage you to let others know what will soon happen. So Ellen White writes that the final events will come very quickly, one after the other. So that's my advice for today. That's my encouragement. And if I buy a piece of land somewhere, I will not tell you. Because you will sell me out for a loaf of bread.